Welcome to the Bastrop Podcast. Real people, real stories, all from right here in Bastrop, Texas. I'm your host, Matt Walker, a local business owner, realtor, and entrepreneur with Wisdom House Realty Group and Bastrop Drone and Media Company. We sit down with the locals, shaping our community, from the mayor's office to Main Street shops, and bring you the voices behind the town we call home. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Bastrop Podcast. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, your family, and how long you've been in Bastrop for?
I'm Dominica McGinnis, and I've been in Bastrop for 23 years now. I have 4 girls, and we live all Bastrop County, mostly in Smithville for the last 17 years, and then now moved to Bastrop.
Awesome.
And I've been in Texas for 40-something years. Been in the county since 2000. Father of 3 kids, been a part of this county for a long time.
Nice. So what inspired you to build the Bastrop Law Group? What gap or need did you see in the community when you got started?
Well, we were already practicing in the county, and there were some shifts in the firm that we were with, and we wanted to continue to serve the citizens of the county and the surrounding counties as well, obviously. And so we took the leap and started Bastrop Law Group in July of 24.
Yeah, I want to add to that because so much of Bastrop is made up of small business owners and families. And there's a real gap out here for helping people to do things the right way, to protect their families. I mean, we all want to leave something for our kids, and we want to make sure our businesses aren't a wreck. There was a real need and not enough attorneys out here to fulfill that need. So when we looked at what areas we want to practice in, we decided that those were the areas that were really challenging for most of the people and citizens of Bastrop. Real estate, a lot of people here own property, but they may not have a lot of excess cash, and they don't know how to deal with that. They're small businesses and their families and what they do with planning for their eventual passing or just their life.
And sadly, a lot of people don't understand the law around succession. What happens when you pass away? A lot of times, husbands and wives just make the assumption that everything goes to the surviving spouse. But that's just not true, especially if you have a blended family where you've brought children in from another marriage or another union. And it's tragic to see what happens when people too late come to realize that their assumptions just don't work out when it comes to the law.
A lot of times people are younger and they think, we don't need it now, we'll prepare later. And oftentimes when you're a parent and you're sending your kids off to college, you don't think about the fact that they're now an adult and medical professionals don't have to speak with you. They don't send them with the right information, HIPAA releases, medical powers of attorney, durable powers of attorney. And so there's a real need, and a lot of people just don't understand that they have a need now.
Yeah.
So what are the core services and focus areas of the firm today?
They're really primarily threefold. We do a lot of estate planning, which is wills and trusts, or what people always think about. The reality is they need a lot more for while they're alive and before they pass. We do a lot of real estate because obviously there's so much happening here in the county, a huge need for competent service surrounding that for the buyers and sellers. The third piece is small business. 90% of the businesses in the Bastrop County and the surrounding counties are small. People really don't understand the implications, what can happen if they don't set those up correctly. And so we help folks set up, but just as often we help people fix the things that should have been fixed when they got set up and weren't.
That makes sense. So how do you stay up to date with the growth and needs of Bastrop County?
We're running at full tilt.
Yeah, we're very heavily involved in the county. Both of us are on boards. We are heavily involved with city and county government, interacting with it quite often. We just stay very involved in the county outside of the day-to-day work of doing law to make sure that we stay ahead of what's happening and what's going to be best to serve the needs of our clients.
And, as someone who's been here for a long time, you get to know the community members and what's important to them, what challenges they're running into. We see a lot of people who we know and you don't know them personally, and then you charge Austin prices or you do things that are just insane for them versus focusing on what our locals need. Our people who own ranches, they have different needs than people who own businesses, and being able to serve those needs is important, and you have to get to know them. So relationships are really important to us, and that's how we stay involved, is building those relationships.
And I think when it comes to just seeing you guys around, we're the relative newcomers, but any event that we happen to be at, you guys are pretty much always
generally
there.
We're generally there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a strong finger on the pulse of
Well,
Bastrop.
and it's really helpful a lot of times because I would love to be able to solve things as easily, as efficiently, and as inexpensively as possible. And it's always helpful if you can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, can we find a way to get to there from here without a lot of involvement of the attorneys?
So when someone says estate planning, what does that entail, and what's the first thing you wish every family knew?
Well, I wish that they knew that they needed it, for one thing. Only about 47% of people in the country have an estate plan at all. Anybody who has a minor child, the primary thing they need to think about is what happens if mom and dad go to the restaurant at night and don't make it home. Who's going to raise those children? But really, estate planning is at least as important to deal with for up to the moment that you pass as it is to deal with after you pass. There's an old saying that says there's never been a hearse that pulled a U-Haul. Someone is going to get the things that you've acquired over the course of your life. You need to think about that. But in this day and age, the vast majority of us at some point are going to need some help as we get older. And so what do you do about that? And if you're thoughtful about it, then you can get trusted people who can come alongside. Without that, it's very expensive. It involves the court. And I just really wish that people would sit down and say, this is what I want to achieve. And then I can help them make certain that they're going to do that. We like to say that we don't draft documents, we create peace of mind. It's really important to us that when they walk out the door having finished what we work with them on, that they know that they never have to come back again, and what they want to have happen is in fact going to happen, which I always tell them the most important thing is, how do we make certain that your family stays together? I've just seen too many wars over inconsequential things that destroy the relationships that God really gave us, and that breaks my heart.
Yeah, and Chris brings up a great point because so many times estate planning is really about saving your family. You just really don't know how the death of a loved one's going to impact people or money, and we've seen it destroy families repeatedly. And so if parents, family members don't want that to happen, they really need to set something up in place. The other thing I'd like people to know is that they shouldn't listen to their legal advice from social media and from Google.
Yes.
Because so many things are being bombarded at us all the time, constantly. And what people may not know is that legal advice is specific to the state. And so when they see a lot of things coming on social media, it doesn't really apply to Texas or their particular situation. And we've seen business owners who lose their businesses because they set something up on an online platform, getting online free documents, and thinking that they were getting specific legal advice. And unfortunately, it hurt them. And so there's nothing like the relationship and being able to sit down with an attorney and discuss your particular situation and the nuances involved.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. I can definitely see that just not turning out well when you're trying to do it on your own versus somebody who has been in the industry and knows all the different nooks and crannies of it to make sure that it's done properly.
Sort of 36 years of learning off of other people's mistakes.
Exactly. As the region grows and real estate activity accelerates, what are the most common legal issues your clients bring you, and how do you help them navigate those?
On the real estate side, we have a county that was stable intergenerationally. A lot of folks have inherited a lot of property from grandmother, grandfather, parents, etc. And then there's another large sector that's just here. Now, obviously, we're growing so fast. Really looking at, thinking about, and managing if you decide you want to sell, if you decide you want to keep it. Really, again, it's outcomes. What are the outcomes that you want to achieve for yourself and for your family? And they can be achieved. We can do pretty much anything that's legal to do with real estate, but the question really has to be, let's get clear about what it is we're trying to accomplish. Back to your question about a question I wish that they thought about. Transferring property to your children or grandchildren while you're still alive has tremendous tax consequences versus waiting until you pass away to do that. And oftentimes we'll see that, grandma wants to give property to the kids or the grandkids and chooses to do that while she's alive, and that makes it very costly for them if they ever choose to sell. And so it's knowing the questions so you can know the answers. And very often our clients just don't know the questions to ask, and they get themselves in trouble by acting without knowing that they should have been asking different questions.
Yeah, we tend to see a couple of different kinds of clients. Those who come in proactively because they want to prevent problems, right? And so they get it set up right. They ask the questions to go, what do I need to do to either protect my business, protect my family, and, or protect my property?
Achieve my outcomes.
Achieve the outcomes, right? They have a goal, they want to reach it, and they know that there's different aspects that they need to address. And then those who are reacting to a problem. Now I have a loved one in the hospital. What do I do? And those are heartbreaking situations because at that point, a lot of times it may be too late for us to be able to act if they're not competent.
Or at least not get what they want out of it.
Exactly.
I hate being the bearer of bad news, especially when it very easily could have been fixed.
Yeah. And so you have people who are reacting to a situation. It's one of the things that's true. Everyone needs a lawyer. No one wants one. You don't want to get in the situation where you want one. And so, being proactive and putting those in place, we see that as a county grows, there's a higher level of legal needs. And so we're just happy to be able to help address it.
That makes a ton of sense. I think being the bearer of bad news, we've definitely been in that seat. Unfortunately, it's not anything that hey, if you would have come to us sooner, it would have been better. It's just, this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, the old Texas phrase, that horse is out of the barn.
Yeah, it's just the market. Now the market is down. If you bought a couple of years ago, the market was great, and now it's not. And now we're the bearer of the bad news, and who knows what it's going to do in the future. But we definitely understand being in that situation.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things, especially that touches on real estate that we see, we're handling it now is better, is in Bastrop especially, we have a lot of families who inherited property the incorrect way. No deeds, they have nebulous titles. And so the sooner that's addressed before the next generation passes, the better. And they put it off because they think it's going to be expensive. And it is expensive, but not as expensive as losing the property altogether.
Yeah, we had a client, for example, who the family, by hard work and industriousness, had accumulated 3,500 acres. By the time our client arrived, they had lost over 3,000 of those acres in tax foreclosure because it had not been properly deeded. The tax notices were going to somebody who didn't even know they owned the land and therefore not being paid. And by the time the client showed up, they didn't have the money to fix the tax issues. And to lose that much property unintentionally and having generations of your family working to build it is tragic. And we've seen that many, many times. And unfortunately, by the time it gets to that, it's very expensive to fix. Every time a relative of yours dies in that situation, it becomes exponentially more difficult to fix.
I've gone to those tax auction things to see what it's all about. Being in real estate, you want to know all the different aspects of it, just with that kind of mindset on the background of those, especially those larger estates, that it's just not going to the right person and it could have been prevented.
It could have been prevented.
Yeah, and so often probate, we see these occur in probate situations as well, where, probate's not taught in high school. No one tells you before you graduate, hey, if you have a parent die, you need to probate their will. And they wait too long to do it.
Or if they don't have a will, you got to probate their estate anyway, and they wait too long, and then the solutions are limited.
So on the business side, how does Bastrop Law Group support small business owners and startups in the area, and what's a typical challenge you help with?
There are a couple of stages that are required to set up a small business right. One of which everybody who starts down that path, who decides to do anything besides a sole proprietorship, just open the door and hang a sign, is that you have to file in formation with the Secretary of State. That's called a certificate of formation. It's easy. Secretary of State's online. The issue is really twofold. One, there are a bunch of folks who are not attorneys who are helping them, a lot of CPAs primarily, that shouldn't. I don't try to be a CPA, and I really wish that they wouldn't try to help people form small businesses because they miss a big step, and that is that you have to have an operating agreement. Even if you're alone, it says what happens if you divorce, you pass away, you become disabled, you decide to bring on new partners. How do you manage taxes? How is it taxed at the IRS level? Every issue that needs to be addressed in the operating agreement. Oftentimes we'll have folks who start a business in best of intentions, bring on a partner or two, they have no operating agreement. It's all great when you get along, but then when you don't, then you've got problems. And that's the sort of thing that we see. There are so many small businesses here already and so many more that are forming. And if they do it right on the front end, it's relatively inexpensive. It's a business expense. And so you can expense the legal fees against your taxes. But also, it structures you and gives you a foundation that you can build success upon. And you want that foundation to be strong. You want it to cover all the stuff it needs to cover. So often we see with small businesses here, many of which have been working for a long time and in business for a long time, making a lot of money and just not properly structured.
Yeah. And sometimes that comes to light when they try to get their first loan because they don't have the right documents. I need this loan and I need it today or I need it soon. And the banks are saying, we need to see your formation documents, and they want the operating agreement that tells them what they need to know. The operating agreement is kind of like an estate plan for your business. You want to make them and not have the state of Texas make them for you. If you don't make those decisions, then you may not have exactly what you actually think you want or need.
Yeah, we had a builder client, been building for a long time, self-financing everything, decided for business reasons to get a loan, had $500,000 collateral in cash to get a $500,000 loan and couldn't get it because they didn't have the proper operating documents. And so for the first time in their career, they're on a timeline, right? And so it's best to think about and do those things early in order to be able to take care of your business and know that it's going to succeed. And not only succeed the business itself, but be successful in what you're trying to create for yourself and your family with that business.
Yeah. And we're business owners. I mean, a law firm is a business, but we also have a couple of other businesses together. And we know how critical those can be. When we ourselves set up our own agreement, we had to think through a lot of things. You know, what happens if we decide no longer to work together? There were so many things that require candid conversations.
Yes.
That were important to have. And sometimes you just don't know the questions you need to ask. And that's how we help our clients, to ask those tough questions and make sure we put those protections in place.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually leads me into the next question. I believe you both have executive coaching roles and you're heavily involved in community leadership. How does that work complement what you do at the law firm, and what have you learned from that crossover?
I've been coaching lawyers, CPAs, and C-suite professionals for 27 years. A lot of what it's helped with in terms of the law firm is the fact that they're some of the smartest people in the country. We worked with lawyers in every state in the U.S. in more than 40 countries. We've worked with all the big four accounting firms. We've worked with a lot of incredibly smart people doing incredibly interesting things. And we're good thieves. We steal good ideas. And so it's helped us to provide a level of sophistication that might be surprising in Bastrop, Texas. We've worked with most of the largest law firms in the world. And so that helps us to know the questions to ask, to see the scenarios that take place. But also, if you want to be a real coach, which is to say to help the other person to build their business the way they want to, not the way you have, then you really have to be able to listen and see what the outcomes are that they want, see what the goal is, and help them to accomplish it in the ways that they are equipped to as people. And in the law business, every person who walks through the door has their own story, and they have their own lives, and they have their own goals. And all too often, it's been my experience that sometimes they walk in and I know the solution, so I'm just going to tell it to you. But you've taken your entire life to get here. And I really need to understand what it is you want to do and how you want to do that in order to be able to get you the solutions you want. And coaching has been tremendous in that ability to see behind the curtain with your client and help them to get where they want to go.
For so many people, they want to solve a problem. Sometimes they come to coaching because they want to achieve an outcome. They also come to coaching because they want to solve a problem. Both of those things we do on the law firm side. And people come to lawyers a lot when they go, I need some advice. And so it really dovetails nicely together. We love building teams. And so one of the most fun we've had, I think, is building this team, you know, and working together with a great group of people.
How do you foresee the legal needs of Bastrop County evolving, and what are you guys preparing for?
Well, first of all, as we go from rural to urban, and whether we like that idea or not, the needs change, the complexities change. And so you really need to have someone who understands those complexities and is able to deal with them. Secondly, as outside forces come into the county, for those of us who've been here for a long time, we really are going to have to understand what they bring, what their expectations are, what their ideas are. And so we need to be able to bridge that. In many respects, The growing legal needs of Bastrop need to be addressed by folks who understand how to bridge the various needs and complexities of both sides. Back to it, if you end up in litigation, the only folks who win are lawyers. Ultimately, it's incredibly expensive, not only economically, but it just takes a piece of your soul as a client to go through litigation. And so the more you're able to build relationships to be able to solve problems and achieve outcomes in the easiest, most efficient, most cost-effective way possible, that's it. That's the goal, ultimately, that we try to help our clients achieve. And as the county grows, a lot of what we just spoke about with respect to so many other organizations and places that we worked with in some of the largest cities in the world, that is not a foreign language to us, and it is certainly not a foreign relationship to us. And so we're able to address those things. And yet, at the end of the day, our primary goal is to understand and work with people who are our friends and our neighbors and those that live in this community to make this place better.
Yeah. I think as the county grows, you're going to see a lot of need for support for our small business owners to compete with the larger big box stores that are inevitably going to come in, to provide that level of help and expertise or support that we can give them. And, for our small developers to compete with the big developers, they need some particular real estate needs. I think that as our county grows, we want to be what we've always been, a part of the community and helping to keep our small town feel and our small town community strong, even as it grows.
So when you sit down with a new client, what is an often overlooked question or issue you raise early to help avoid future headaches?
I might rephrase it just a little bit. I want to know what they want to achieve. When I sit down with them, I ask them to tell me about themselves, whether it's on a business side or personal, and what's the outcome? What's the end game? What are they going to say is success when we get there? And once we have that answer, then we can back into everything else that we need to know. Oftentimes, we're dealing with really sensitive issues for people. The coworker who just isn't working anymore. We're not employment lawyers, but then back to that operating agreement, the situation in their business that needs some help or needs to be structured so that there won't be an issue. On the family side, sometimes you're dealing with problematic kids or children that you particularly worry about. You might be dealing with your own limitations, maybe cognitive problems or whatever the case may be. And I want them to know that we're not judging any of that, but we are certainly there to help them to achieve what they need to do, to get themselves positioned well so that whatever time they have in business or life is going to be as good as it possibly can be.
I think it's funny because how that actually looks on a day-to-day basis is a client often comes in and they think, I'm coming here for a specific thing. And they'll sit down with Chris, he'll start talking to them, and they realize that there's a lot more things that they hadn't thought about that they actually need. And so it's really critical for us to get to know the clients personally. There's an important reason behind that, is so we understand your particular situation and the goals that you want to achieve.
That's really great to hear how you're able to foster those relationships with people. That sounds like it's the key point for success in this kind of industry.
And I think that it's been borne out because we came in and we're instantly busy. We like to joke that you never want to hire a lawyer who has time. There's probably a reason for that. And so we were instantly busy, and we've stayed that way ever since without any advertising at all. It's just we have clients who have felt good enough about what we've done with and for them that they tell whoever they're talking to at the cocktail party or at church or wherever they may be, when somebody says, I need, then we've been blessed with them thinking about us and sending their friends and family our way.
So for families or business owners moving to Bastrop or starting fresh here, what advice would you give them about getting ahead legally so they build wisely and protect their future?
Well, back to what I said earlier, build the foundation. Even a single owner LLC or a single shareholder S Corp really needs to understand that if all you're doing is building it and you're going to stay you, then you're not building a business, you're building a prison. And so if you want to build a business that will serve you and serve your family and serve whatever outcomes you want to create, then you really need to do that on the front end. And it's really not that expensive. It's really not. If you do the right work on the front end, it's over the long haul. The amount of money, and not only money, but just soul, again, just the impact it'll be on you as a person will be tremendously outweighed by the investment you're going to make on the front end to get set up right.
If one of your clients were going to describe their experience working with you in the firm, what word or phrase would you hope they use and why?
Well, excellence. I would want them to feel like they had excellent work product that we created for them. Peace of mind is one, that they feel really confident and comfortable that what we've done for them has worked and has set them up the way that they want to be. And in those times when we litigate, we win. And so they need to know that too. If they have a situation that's going to require us to go to court, we have absolutely zero fear about doing that. Our results are almost universally excellent. I'm trying to think of a time that they weren't. So that's it too.
I think also, and this is something that Chris says a lot when he does spend extra time with clients, is that he wants them to feel heard. We want our clients to feel heard, listened to, taken care of, and protected, and that we're there to serve them. That we have a saying, it's clients first, relationships first. And that really means that we are taking care of them. And it may not always be the decision that we would have made, but we heard them, and then we're going to help them achieve the goals that they're trying to get.
I like it. What are 60 seconds of wisdom? And it doesn't have to be about law. It can just be anything that you have always kept in the back of your mind, or it can be about law and what we talked about. But what are 60 seconds of wisdom that you can pass on to our listeners?
At the end of the day, I like to say that God gives you your family and you choose everyone else. And so when it comes to thinking about how you want to deal with that and how you want it to be a legacy, I think the primary goal always needs to be, how can I make certain that the relationships that I have and the family that I was given and then in the community that I've built will look back on and see that I handled it well. That feels important to me. The other thing about it is that at the end of the day, life encompasses a lot of difficult decisions, but they can all be overcome. And so how you sit down and are willing to take the time to think about what it is that you want to see as sort of the map of whatever is left of your life is really important, both business and professional.
There's a few things. I think one is, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have an idea of what you want, a map, you're bound not to get there. And so understanding what you would like to do, whether that's how you want to live your life, how you want to raise your family, how you want to run your business, whatever it is, I think it's important to spend some time thinking about that and planning for it. The other thing is, you're going to make mistakes. And there's usually a way to fix it. And there's grace. And you've got to forgive yourself and others. And so we're all doing the best we can. And I'll say this about everybody is, assume good intent. You've probably heard me say that a million times. When you read an email, when you're doing anything, assume good intent. You can't internalize all the negativity.
I became an attorney because I wanted to be able to help people. And I think that most people, if you think about it, spend their lives thinking about how they can help others to achieve whatever it is those others want to achieve. As parents, we want our kids to do more than we did. We want them to stand on our shoulders and achieve greater things. As a community, we'd like to see our community be as great for our children and grandchildren as it was for us. In a lot of ways, if you take that down to the individual situation, what is it that you want to leave behind? What is it that you're trying to build? What is it that you're trying to achieve in the moment? What's the outcome you're trying to create? I keep talking about that. And a lot of times, it's impossible for us to be able to see all of the various pieces that need to fit together and how. And I feel like I've been blessed with working with so many people for so long and been able to harvest so much of that over that experience and over that time, that I feel like it's nice to be able to sort of come alongside and not be the lawyer to them, but be the sort of the partner with them and trying to help them to achieve what they want to pull off. At the end of the day, when I go to the great beyond and I fall in the arms of Jesus, I'd like for my headstone to read, he had a great ride and he took a lot of people with him.
Was there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to discuss?
I think the thing that I would say is stop thinking about it and do it. Nobody wakes up on a Tuesday morning and says, gee, I think it's a great day to call a lawyer. We had a client just recently come in because one of their sisters had a catastrophic car accident and was grievously injured. And they have a child and they've got a business and they've got each other and they've got all of those things going on. And they realized that sometimes things happen that you don't anticipate. And so I would really encourage people to do instead of think about doing. And then likewise, if you have that goal that's in your head on the business side, and it's just never let you go. You've been thinking about it forever and never had the courage to act. There again, I'd say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. Act. Do it. To the extent that we can help with that, we would love to be a part of that.
Leadership is a big focus of mine, and I think as we lead our families or lead ourselves, lead our businesses, one of the biggest challenges that people experience is they don't know how to have the tough conversations. They don't know how to handle conflict. And so they avoid the tough conversations. And that's really critical when you're talking about estate planning and what you want. If I'm in an accident and I'm alive, what do I want for myself in that situation? And have I communicated that to my family? How do I talk about these really uncomfortable conversations? And how do I handle the underperforming employee or a business partner who we've now fallen out of sync? So I think the critical problems that people have in Bastrop, our business owners, our parents, is that we don't know how to have those tough conversations, and it stops us from acting and doing the things we need to, setting up the estate plan, setting up our operating agreement, fighting for what we want, or setting those goals. I think that it's a really important skill and asset that they be able to lead and that they be able to have those tough conversations.
And we help them do that.
Yeah.
How can people reach out to you and get in touch with you guys?
Yeah. So frequently people find us on our website, which is BastropLawGroup.com. You'll see us on social media as well. You can always call. We have a lot of older clients who prefer just to pick up the phone. So you can call us at 512-240-9565. Feel free to reach out however is comfortable. We are 1108 Walnut Street, which is the church parsonage of the Paul Quinn AME Church. So Google will take you to the church. We're actually the parsonage. Whatever you need to do, you can find us.
If you see us in the restaurant,
yeah,
like you said, we're
all over
all the time, and you've now figured out we're more than happy to talk.
I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and joining us on the podcast. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Bastrop Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, follow us on Instagram at Bastrop Podcast and share it with a neighbor. We're here with new conversations from people who make Bastrop feel like home. Got someone you think we should interview? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you.